Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for being with us today. After 50 sessions welcoming 5,000 participants from all over the world, we're truly honored to welcome none other than Luis Salerno, PwC's Digital Communications Manager, on an exclusive masterclass, content strategy, the 10 pitfalls and how to deal with them. A little bit about our fantastic speaker background. Luis Salerno was born in Lima, Peru, and holds an engineering and innovation degree from both Peru and Luxembourg. Luis started his career in Luxembourg working as a trainee academic researcher at the Henry Tudor Research Center, before venturing into supporting startups with their social media strategies, acting mainly on the analytical side. It is back in 2014 where he was recruited by PwC Luxembourg to support them on the digital communications, where he's been contributing as blog editor, content strategist, which brought him later to lead teams and design PwC's Luxembourg digital communications ever since. Since 2015, he's been also acting as a trainer at the PwC Academy, where some of his pupils have described him as the king of content. Luis, I don't think that it doesn't get any better than that. Congratulations. Luis, we've been looking forward to this conversation for a while, and by the end of the session, we really would like to know what is that companies, corporates, and startups can do today to distinguish their communications in a world where we are constantly getting bombarded by messages. What can they do to remain congruent to themselves while reaching out to their clients and customers and eventually convert them? Luis, the screen is yours.
Can everybody hear me well?
Yes, Luis.
Okay,
please go ahead.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure because getting to the connection was a bit hard. You know, we have firewalls on the work computer, so I had to switch to the personal. So thanks a lot for being there. And I just was laughing when I was laughing in a nice way when I saw the ad about the training saying that I was the king of content, and I was saying, well, if content was a chessboard, I will be probably the pawn. And this is a good thinking because that keeps me trying and going, which is the secret for any good content strategy. Is always try something and then see if it works or not. So, well, again, thanks for being there. And I will start simply with one of, with a story, but it's a story that I guess everybody knows. And if they don't know, it's part of the Lord of the Rings, but it's, you know, this Gollum and Smeagol, I would say complicated relationship. It's just one character, but has two personalities. And for me, it's one of those unforgettable stories, but primarily, and I think for a lot of people it's the same, is the conflict that this one character with two personalities has that resembles what we have as people, as individuals. So that resonated so much with me that I was suffering. I was feeling the suffering because that's, I think, something we all live all the time. So this, you know, pulling or feelings from people is, or producing these feelings is what good content should do. That's primarily the base. Now, a lot of people think that, I don't know precisely which industries you are working, but especially in financial services and serious industries, that's common. The common thinking is we should be serious, then therefore we should be boring, because professionals in these areas, I don't know, are they boring? This is always a wonder. And one of the things that I read months ago, but really resonated with me too, was that we don't change personalities, we don't change the way we are because we go to work and then because we go home. We are the same people with the same feelings and the same needs and the same everything. So what attracts us is the same. The way it doesn't change just because I am at the office. By the way, I am at home, I just moved, so if you see everything empty, it's because there is not much to show. Things are coming slowly. So we move to the next one. Please, whenever you have a question, I don't remember exactly, Anthony, what you said, but they can interrupt me if they need, okay? No problem. So I will move forward with the outcomes quickly. The outcomes of the training are three. First of all, understanding the strategic value of content. And I identified 4 pitfalls there. There must be a lot more, but I think for the sake of the length of the duration of the training or the webinar, these 4 are the ones I think are the most important ones. And then how to make content operational to fit business goals. And the third one is to have a sort of lab-like mindset, which is kind of related to what I said in the beginning. The importance of keep trying all the time. Okay, I'm just trying to move this bar here. I think it's better. Yeah. So, and well, the fourth one is not really an outcome, but it's, you know, in these times, let's be brave. COVID has shown for bad or for good sometimes, for the bad or for the good, the importance of digital. But I think we need to balance things out. We are still human, and we still love the human touch and being near someone. And there is, I think, I've never felt this before, how important it is to be near my colleagues when I am near with them, and how much we value that. And well, probably this is the lesson learned for life. This is the story, because this is the good thing about COVID. This is a common story of the world. We will never forget this. Well, I move to the next one. So the first one is something I really want to remark. Good content makes freemium every single business. The freemium model, which is something we tend to believe it's only for software service companies or apps or game or streaming services. Content makes this freemium for everyone, because good content is something we give up for free. We are giving to the world to attract, entertain, keep an audience that will ultimately drive business growth. Okay, so this concept is very important and probably the hardest it's hard to convince the board, or it's hard to convince your bosses, I'm sure, that this is it. This is the way the world works nowadays, and especially more and more for the internet pushed this. But the COVID thing, social media, and streaming services such as YouTube and all that made it even more urgent, you know, to get this concept of giving up or giving things for free, you know. It's not exactly for free, but it's like a trade. I'm trading time, your time and attention for what I offer you, to actually attract you and convert you at some point. Okay. So let's move to the next one, because I think the main ideas here I already expressed them all, and I want to go to the pitfalls because time is very short. And well, let's do it. The first one is the pitfall one. We have 4 here, and these are related to the strategic value of content. But the first one is the seriousness complex, which I referred to before. And you know, most things I have written here are based on my own experience. Of course, that's the best way to teach you or to tell you what we are living and how we are dealing with them. Some of them are solved, some of them are not, and it may take some time, but the seriousness complex is something we haven't solved. And it's, well, like I mentioned before, is thinking that because we are a serious business, at least financial services thinks it is, and it is, we only and only can produce boring content, which is obviously not true. No, that's not what people expect. You know, people have very little time now. Well, with COVID, maybe a little bit more at home, but not really much. And what they want is something that, you know, you want to spend time with. Okay, that's what they want. So overcoming this seriousness complex and understand that we are one of the other companies and businesses advertising or sharing content with people, with audiences. That's the first important thing. Okay. The second pitfall is really few people. I said almost nobody understand it. Yes, I haven't. When I talk to people in my company now, I mean, people. When I say people, is the high level people, or even outside, about content. They just don't. The idea of content marketing or a content strategy, where you are, I wouldn't say pushed, but you have to produce valuable content for free. It's kind of, really? But aren't they paying for anything? But because I don't want to give anything, because that's exactly my job, is to give advice on those subjects. And little people, I mean, really few understand the concept of this. And one of the main ways to overcome this is to get a champion at high level that can sponsor this idea and give you certain resources. Over in the world, content teams aren't really big, and it's our case. Our case is the same. So when I say resources, it's not. Don't imagine a super resource. It's I guess, I mean, according to the Content Marketing Institute, between 3 and 5 people are commonly content teams, no bigger than that. And they do other things too. Moving to the third pitfall, and probably it's a very important one, is content isn't a product. And actually, it should be a product. It should be part of your product mix or service mix. You know, if you get the idea that this is another product, you have to market because it will help you do business, then the story will change. Because then you will strive for quality, you will do your best and produce the best thing. It stops being, it is a nice to have, if I remember, it is a must, because it is part of my set of products and services. It's just that I market it in a different way, or I don't put a super price, or it is just, it will trigger the other things, but it's one of those. If content isn't a product, I honestly think it won't work. For me, for instance, a blog or a podcast should be considered a product, and should be done in such a way that, you know, it's like when I don't know, you may know the Content Marketing Institute, which is like the super trooper organization in the world. I think they are somewhere in Ohio. You know, producing thought leadership stuff around content, and actually they say this. They one of the advices they give is precisely that. So I recommend you to follow them, by the way. And what they say is, for people to, if you want to attract people, give them the best you can. Write your best story you can write. Okay. Let's go to the fourth one. It's we think content is about us still, and it's not about them. So it's about what I want to say as a company. It's the story I want to tell about how awesome I did, or the super product I have produced. And we are still around that. And when I say still, is because it surprises me how successful companies sometimes, or at least the idea I have is they are successful, and not far from Luxembourg, where I'm based now. And they still produce things just around them. I never read them. I say, why? But why should I read? But why should I learn? I wouldn't learn really anything, or maybe a little, but not exact. I wouldn't trade my time to read or consume that content. So let's stop thinking of us, but thinking of what people want out there, and more than what people want is what people need out there. Okay, so that is not an easy thing. That needs a lot of board buy-in, or bosses buy-in, or even our mind, our own brain think differently. Okay, I will move forward. We will have my idea is to go fast, but not super fast, but fast enough to have time to talk afterwards. Okay. I also believe that content and everything related to content there is no one formula or one super.
Luis, if I quickly can interrupt you, I think that it could be interesting to know what your practice is in order to understand what is pertinent out there to communicate about. Do you have like a specific practice you have to write relevant content?
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the best examples I have, and I mentioned that before, is the blog and the podcast. But particularly the blog is, for me, is like my lab where I test. And I think one of the participants here, Mary Carey, she works with me. And sometimes she says, "Luis, you have pushed really far this thing. This is storytelling thing." And I test things, and I see how people gets it, and if they like it or not, and if we see that there is a good response, then we say, why not? This is another way, this is another way to tell a story. So it's primarily based on storytelling. Not everything. Some things either I don't manage to convince the sponsor of the article or the topic about going more into a nice storytelling thing, but in most cases we do. With the podcast, for instance, in our mindset or our idea is it's a conversation over coffee just done online. So it should feel familiar, it should feel intimate, and it should bring insight in a very nice way. And the result so far, it is very satisfying. People stopping me sometimes, the office now it's rarer, it's less common, but saying, thank you because this morning I laughed. I laughed when I was listening to your podcast. I learned, but I also laughed because we put also personal personal things, feelings, ideas, and then we make it personal. One of the most important things about content is you have to make it as far as you can personal. So it has that's why the story of Gollum and Smeagol, they managed to make it personal. I feel for them, and that's what I can tell you so far.
Is there any way to measure it, to measure the success or the impact that you've had with the content that you've created with the audience?
Absolutely, you always need metrics, and it's one of the pitfalls, one of the last ones. But readership is important. For instance, podcast downloads is also very important. But also, linking that with the business in itself, which is basically done, but with software, like a marketing automation tool, for instance. Or if you don't have that, because not every company has that, you have to craft a sort of engine where, for instance, a blog gets you subscribers that you will put in the pipe, and then you will start your nice emailing thing. This sort of, I would say, engranage, I don't know, ingrained thing. It's something you have to test and see. I wouldn't recommend you to go for very sophisticated metrics in the beginning, or even if you are in the middle of the journey, because that makes everything so complicated, and you start depending only and only on sophisticated technology that can be expensive sometimes if you're a small company. So make it simpler, the measuring things simpler, and in a way that it allows you to pull the things from here, from your content thing, to the sales pipe. Okay, that's the idea. Even there are some awesome websites, for instance, which are basically resource centers more than websites, where you can learn how to invest, where you have ebooks to download, And then is when the brain and the experience, the experience of the person plays a very good role, a very important role, because some things, for instance, may be gated, but others shouldn't be gated. So people go there because they know they will get something truly for free, but other things that may be a little bit more important, or maybe heavy content pieces, maybe they have to trade their data. You know, now with the GDPR, in Europe at least, we have to be very serious with this data thing. Get all the approvals from the people and all that, you know, for those people to enter the sales pipe. But that's what I can tell you regarding metrics.
Is that something that is already embedded within your communication practice at PwC, or is it still in a testing phase, in a experiential phase? I know that creating podcasts is something that has become mainstream, but it's a practice that doesn't really exist that long. I think it was created 5, 6, 7 years ago, and it really kicked off 3, 4 years ago. So how is that at PwC, at your practice?
Let me go to the next one, because it's part of it. And it's precisely the pitfall 5. It's content sustainability, or the lack of content sustainability. We get, you may live the same story. We get several tons, I wouldn't say tons because it's an exaggeration, but not little requests to create parallel, for instance, LinkedIn pages, because we want to be in the market. And my question, even I had one yesterday. So my question was, okay, and what do you want to say? And what is the frequency of product? What do you, first of all, what is the objective of this? Very important. We'll see that in the next one. And then the frequency of sharing, and what you want to say, and what is the ROI of this story? And then they look at me and they say, well, you know, we just want to be more present. I say, yeah, but how? And how long it will last? And one of the persons I remember told me, well, you know, I am here only doing a secondment, and I will leave in 6 months. And I said, okay, so who will take the responsibility of this? And the guy told me, I don't know. So my answer was, you know, get back to your boss and ask about the sustainability of this, for how long you want to run this, because for a blog, for instance, or for a podcast, to really take off, it is plus 2 years. So if you and what happens very commonly is some businesses launch 2, 1, even 1 or 3 editions of something. They measure and then they say, no, it's not working. You say, but how can you pretend this to work or intend this to work in 3 months? With the busy market, content market that is out there, or the content economy, I like to call it, where, you know, there is a lot of offer and the demand. It is also there, but it's I would say scarce in a way, because there are so many resources that you have to, you know, fight for your small space in this busy market. So content sustainability is very important. It means, basically, in simple terms, for how long you will run things. Mm-hmm.
What is, Luis, is there any type of frequency in terms of content distribution and content creation and content distribution that you recommend? Or is that something that is specific to the startup or to the corporate to adopt?
You know, it's a sort of intersection. One is your resources. If you're going to produce 1 blog per day, to say something, but it will be very low quality, don't do it. Mm-hmm. So it's better to produce 1 a week, for instance, or twice a month. I wouldn't say less than that, because it will be really little. Once a month is really little, but do it well, and then see how this frequency works with the people. If you get at some point more people saying, "Hey, would like to know more about this," then go for that. But it's all about resources, so you have to think of how much you can produce with quality. Producing by the sake of producing or for the sake of producing makes little sense, really. Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I want to challenge you a little bit on this, Luis. I get it that quality is incredibly important, and that I think it should be related to also the content strategy of the company. Some companies decide to only publish once a week, twice a month, 3 times a month, but in the midst of everything that is going on, in the midst of all the content distribution that is happening, how can somebody stand out and generate traffic with 1 post a week, 1 post a month, when there are companies that are bombarding all over the place and that are getting all the attention?
That's a very good question. And then it's this is not the focus of this webinar, but it's when true storytelling comes and a true way to differentiate, a true voice. Really little articles are, and I read a lot, especially at the weekends, are kept here in my mind. But only the ones that have, that's the beginning of the presentation, have touched me. Those are the ones that will be in my mind forever. So what I see is a lot of BS content. You know what BS means, everybody knows. Or the typical content, and I am really being honest with you, and I hope nobody will kill me and I won't lose my job. But for instance, Big Four content tends to be so similar with the same type of words, or the same type of phrases, or the same types of outcomes that you say, okay. And even media, for instance, I'm talking about Luxembourg, which is what I know better. So you know what word comes after. You know it. You just know it. I know it. I read the first part and then something is blocking the second line, but I know what is coming, because there is no this surprising factor. But that's storytelling, again, is one of the techniques. It doesn't mean it's the only one. But it's one that helps a lot. Also, storytelling, graphic storytelling or visual storytelling, not only written, it is very important now, increasingly important because you can get things in a very short period of time, for instance, but you have to get your way. And that is not easy, and that is a trial and error thing, but that's the only way. So there is no formula to tell you, formulas, hey, this is the way. But you have to try it and you have to test it. That's why the boards buy-in and all the processes and all the governance that we talk afterwards are so important. But again, not again, but what I want to say after is this kind of lab mindset. It should be, the content project or the content team should have a sort of startup, and you know very well it's a startup a mindset. Mm-hmm. So let's try, and if you have tons of governance around, which is the next one, the Pitfall 7, it's complicated, it's not good, but if you have no governance, it's also bad. Because, for instance, for approval processes, they are a true bottleneck. And some of you, I'm sure, have this problem. So for instance, we need approvals for every single blog article, and even there is a person cited or quoted there, where who is the person who basically approves it. And we are getting better and better to foresee, already to have some days before, when we need the approval. If we don't, we have a second plan B. And this is something you only get after failing and running on Fridays, which is the day we post, for instance, with my colleague, Andrea, that I think, I don't know if she's there, but I'm sorry for the word, but what the hell we do now? And we don't want that anymore, because then what we produce is something that it's not satisfying. So yeah, if that helps that answers a little bit your question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so governance, I mentioned, I don't want to stop there because it's already 32 and I want to finish all the pitfalls. I just governance balance, I would say, if something needs 200 approvals, you will never get out. It will never get out. And one of the problems of tons of approvals is that the content gets diluted. You know, the nice, original, punchy idea gets killed because you have a lot of several people, giving suggesting changes that normally, because they don't have this new mindset, get back to the original way they were writing, which happens to be boring. Let's face it, it's very boring. So it's these kind of things that you won't read, won't read. I also give training on writing with a colleague of mine, Mary Carey, and this is something we want to push when we give us that training. You have to write something that you will read. Write things that you will read, and you will laugh at what I'm going to say, but I'm very honest with you guys. Something you will read in a coffee shop or when you go to the toilet. Then laugh at me, but it's the only way. If you read, if you enjoy that, then it's there's something good.
Luis, I know that at PwC and other consultancy firms, you rely a lot on feedback in order to create innovative content that is still in an experiential phase. How much do you listen to that content, knowing that you are coming back to what you've said, that it's more efficient when you are working in a small team with the same mindset, working on a strategy and testing the strategy? How much do you should you rely on external feedback? It's a tricky question.
No. It's really a lot. And I honestly say we are not precisely doing the best job there. We need more feedback because, the best consultant you can have for your content is actually the audience. If you don't ask, if you are blindly there or producing it, I'm saying this is a mea culpa. And it's based on the amount of work we all have. And there is little time to think of, probably is good, probably is good. So the metrics on readership and that is good, but also having, conversations with people is good. And certain feedback system you can establish that is practical, but also helpful to answer those questions. And a couple of weeks ago, I was thinking, it wouldn't be nice to actually, run a sort of, I wouldn't say a survey, but something like that, to get what people want to see on the blog in the coming, as of 2021, for instance. That would be very nice. Now, that has to be matched with a business thing, and you have to find the balance, but it is very, very important. It's very important.
But it isn't that easy to get the audience's feedback, huh?
It is,
and what they want to see in the imminent future. It's been very tricky for us to understand what they want to see, especially knowing dealing with a very uncertain future where everything is quite where content that is going to be relevant today might be completely obsolete in a few months from today.
I absolutely agree, and also it's also our fault as a user, as a reader, as a content consumer. How many times you and I and you all get sometimes emails saying, "Can you please give your feedback?" Do you really do it? No, you don't. I'm sure you don't, or you do it sometimes, and I do it only sometimes when I have the time to do it. Okay, or when I see that the source, the company or the blog or the newsletter asking me for that, it's something I truly consume because I know, because it's good. So I say, okay, let's give my feedback so they can still or continue giving me what I like to see. I confess, when I opened my Medium account, that you may all know, It's stressful for me, very stressful, for one simple reason. I know I will find at least 3 or 4 articles to read, and I don't have the time. So the only thing it produces in me is stress. And that is what it's called the content shock. There is so much content out there. Now, you know, that tool has the saving thing, so I have maybe at the weekend I have the time to read it. But yeah, I know what you mean. It's not easy, but whatever little interaction feedback you get is already good. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, then the next one is the pitfall 8 is content is not a touch point. It's not on your in the journey. Everybody talks about which role plays content.
Luis, could you please go on to the next slide? I know. Sorry. Yes. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I have it.
It's just, you know, because this is part of making content operational. So, okay, which role is playing in this journey? That sometimes is simple, sometimes it's complicated, especially in B2B. It can get really messy because some interactions are physical, but now less and less physical. That's why digital is ranking higher and higher. So even, you know, the side effects of Corona, probably measuring, you know, the buyer's journey is becoming a little bit easier. Because things are mostly online now. They are now online, and I hope it won't be like that in 6 months' time. But yeah, so it's which role plays content in this thing, you know, in this simple, complicated matrix sort of journey. Okay, for instance, in a company like us, it basically plays. And to be very honest with you, if the funnel, let's say the funnel is this one, it's on top and here. So it's to attract the people and to improve our brand voice and market share of voice in the market regarding certain topics we want to be focused on. And here down, when we have already a client and we want to keep, you know, the relationship and a healthy relationship, and keep them informed and letting them know that we are valuable and we are there for them, you know. In the middle, we are working on that, but the model we have now doesn't precisely fit with that, you know. But that's the upcoming challenge, you know, because more and more we are going to platforms and software production, and then we need to kind of resemble the SaaS model, the software as a service model, which is basically everything is digital. Okay, so I move to the next one. Okay, 20 minutes ago, the pitfall 9, one of the most important ones, the content strategy isn't documented. How many of you can tell me your content strategy is on? When I say documented, again, it's when I say to my team, please do a plan, and then they look at me like, oh, mamma mia. So I have to write a plan, which means 20 pages of whatever. And I say, no, a plan, and I'm an engineer, okay? That's what I would say. A plan is a table, is an Excel or Google Sheets or whatever you want, with 5 lines or 6, whatever, as detailed as you want to be, saying the objective, what you're going to do, who is going to do it, when it's going to be done, and how you will measure it. That's it. So for the content strategy is the same. Okay, this is the goal of the content strategy, of the content project or production. How it matches the business, which role will play in the business thing. Then which type of topics we will be focused on in this period of time, because of course that evolves, which formats we will be using, which channels we will be using, and who, you know. And when I say channels and formats, a very good recommendation, don't go for everything. Just focus on 1, 2, and 3 maximum, and go for that, okay? So that's something I learned, you know, by heart, and when I was a social media officer before, and you know, having channels and channels and people asking me, why don't you have Snapchat? Or why don't you have this? Or why don't you have TikTok? And I said, because I have nothing to say. Not now. I have not the resources to dedicate people to produce valuable content for those. Because if my content will resemble, for instance, on Snapchat, what I do on Instagram, I don't want that. That is not channel optimization. I have to optimize the content per channel, you know? So moving to the next one, pitfall 10.
So Luis, so you would recommend for everyone listening that they should pick one channel, that they feel comfortable with producing content on, and stick to it if it works for them, instead of posting content on different channels that are not really congruent with what they want to communicate, and maybe even to themselves or their own talent. We know that Facebook has a certain skill set that is required to make it work. Same for Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Is that what you mean a bit?
Yes, I want you to think of two pillars. One is think of distribution channels, okay, and think of host channels. Okay, host channels where, you know, the blog, the web, even streaming services such as YouTube or Vimeo, those are hosts. You host or lip sync for podcasts, for instance. And distribution channels are primarily email and social media. Okay, those are the main distribution channels. So what I'm saying is focused on industry. When it comes to social media, there are tons of them. Don't try to be in all of them. You know, try to have 1, 2, maximum 3. If the 3 of them reply or answer your business goals. So if you want, one of our goals is, for instance, to attract more talent. Obviously, Instagram is the channel. I mean, the millennials are there. The Y generation is still there. No, they are moving to Zoom. I'm sorry, to TikTok, to Zoom. And yeah, so it makes sense, you know. But the other one is it's LinkedIn for obvious reasons. Mm-hmm. If you really visit our YouTube channel, you will see there is not much lately. Well, when I say lately, since 2 years ago, mm-hmm. because we don't have the means. And that was an internal conflict, generated an internal conflict when I raised my voice saying, guys, this is not YouTubeable. What we are using YouTube as primarily as a library of content, but mm-hmm. library of content to get the code to embed on the website. Is that the sense? That does it make sense to keep a channel that way? There is no engagement, really little. Followers don't grow, of course, because there is no the YouTube mindset. It's a YouTuber mindset. I am the clown of the circus. I run this thing with certain frequency. I have a tone of voice. I have style. And I am a crazy YouTube consumer, by the way. I consume YouTube every single day, at least 1 hour. Okay, so I'm telling you something I know because I am a user. And I stick to those channels. I'm happy every night because I say, oh, the guy or the girl, I follow a lot of cooking channels, especially Italian food. And oh, there is no recipe this week. That's not good because it's so enjoyable, you know. But because of this frequency and style and voice and tone and everything they keep, we didn't have that. So why to keep it? So it's there, it's not killed. It's killed with the content produced before. But as long as we don't have a proper YouTube, a YouTuber and a YouTuber strategy, we stop it.
And how come, Luis, if I can ask? Despite the fact that, as you've mentioned, YouTube is such an important channel nowadays, an important streaming channel, where people can identify with certain influencers, with certain cultures. How come that it hasn't been embraced by big firms in Luxembourg? I think we are one of the least. One of the countries that have deployed YouTube as a medium channel, communication channel, the least in comparison to other countries in the European Union. I think one together with Manon Raison, our head of communication and marketing, we did some research about what the biggest channels are, YouTube channels. And I think the biggest has like around 2,000 subscribers here in Luxembourg, which is nothing.
Yeah, but I think it's because just people haven't got it right. So they just use it to store. It's a storage thing. It's a storage service for free, by the way. No, it's not like Vimeo that you pay what you pay. No. So it is not, I want to use this as a communication channel that will be part of my mix and will help me in the pipe. So I will put the resources to make it work. That's one. And the other is YouTube basically is a search engine, basically, and it answers two things. How to do something, okay? That's the first thing you search, how to, okay? And the other is why. You ask a lot of whys. Why this thing works this way? And then you have answer, the engine is answering you. Because we have this mindset that the how to is already giving information that can bring me money because that's my consulting service. I don't reply how to. I don't have to reply. That's my business. You know, everything is linked. So this misconception or this non-freemium understanding of how content works nowadays and how people consume it and how people assess content, I think the result is what you have on Luxembourg. No? It's I don't know any really successful YouTube channel in Luxembourg. Not really. I think it's based on that. Also, a good YouTube channel needs more resources. You cannot produce n'importe quoi, whatever video. You know, it has to be a good video, a good thing. Cannot be just like that. You know, it's not like when you put a video on Twitter or maybe on Instagram. It's even in Instagram, it's okay. It has to be decently done. But YouTube is even more than decently done. It has to be the best possible outcome. Okay, that's my perception on YouTube. But it's a perception that happens also in big firms in the world, but not all of them. But not a good number of them are using YouTube mostly as a as a bibliothèque. I want to say as a library, but not really as a channel to engage. Okay, it's not the goal is not engagement. You know, the goal is to have a place to store things. Okay? So, and the last one, you know, is just to repeat myself because I've been saying this for during the entire presentation, but it's this lab-like mindset all the time. And now all the time, when I say all the time, it also has, you know, I have to take this carefully. You need a time, a period. You say, okay, this test will run this time. If it doesn't work, we kill it. Okay, it's hard to kill your baby, I know. But that's the way. So in to kill something, you need to know if it works or not. So you ideally define metrics, and I am telling you a true story. When the podcast was launched, we called colleagues from another part of the world, and because they had more experience with podcasting, and we asked, can you kindly share with us the metrics you use to measure your success, because we want to have a reference? And the answer was, we don't have any metric. And then we open our eyes this big, saying, leave Luxembourg. And probably, and I always blame the engineering background I have, but I need to measure things. How the hell I know then if it works or not? And they look at us like, what? No, we never thought of that. And it's interesting that you're saying it. So then we came up with this one metric, and we are sticking to that. So until now, and let's see afterwards. But yeah, so that's important to keep this lab-like mindset with, you know, metrics involved in a period of time where you can assess yes or no. And the last one is not really a pitfall, but it's there's a lot of education. We need to educate people really a lot on how the new world works.
Just one question. What is your practice to create a lab-like mindset or an environment where people feel comfortable to express themselves and express new strategy? Do you have like a practice in place at your place within your team? Do you meet once, twice a week? You discuss new ideas, you brainstorm, and then you describe the implementation strategy. What is your strategy? I know that you test, and that you're quite artistic. What is your approach with your team?
The first thing you mentioned is very important. Is and it's psychological safety. You know, to express. First of all, good humor. Okay, a good mood, good humor in general is good. The first thing to create the psychological safety. So not only and only then, people allow themselves to go and express. Okay, I don't know what my team thinks of me. I to have fun. You know, I always say I am the dictatorissimo, but it's to have fun, precisely to tell them I am not that. So let's have fun of this, not fun of my role as a manager, but you know, I am the manager, but I am driving them. It's more a driver role. So if they get this space, is when they can express and propose and tell me. And sometimes even I get angry at them, saying, I don't want to know. I want you to tell me how you will do it, and we discuss, you know, based on that. So yes, meetings. Team meetings are important, but before all that, create this safety, this psychological safety, and be there for them as well. You know, if something goes wrong, assume that. They'll say, it's your fault, because it's not their fault. You have to also assume that. That's very important. And then training, okay? Give them training, not you necessarily, but out there. But now everything is kind of, no, everything is basically digital and kind of cheaper. That's what I wanted to say. So availability of training is better. And something I remember I said to my director is, you know, for me, the training is not that only necessarily going somewhere in the world when it was possible to go to, you know, to be cool and to travel, but it's to get the trends and to get the people that link to those trends, because then I can learn from them and establish relationship with them. But now it's easier for us, you know, to attend training. That's very important too. But that's what I would tell you, know, to create this. You need to be exposed to what's going on, and allow also certain time for that. You know, to discover, to go there. I am very glad with some of my team members. They enroll to webinars themselves, and then you know I see how they are pulling the information and the things they are getting into our practice.
Okay. Do you think we could have one of your teammates on board to give us their feedback?
Yes.
On that practice?
Yes.
I think so Andrea, you're with us, right?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. Would you like to share your experience with us? That would be fantastic.
Ooh. In terms of training, I agree with Luis. We have access to a few trainings that allow us to already gain a different perspective, which is what you need to have in particular in social media, because it changes so quickly that, you know, you have to keep up with it somehow. And it's always good to know what others are doing. But yeah, I guess, you know, it comes with a job to be able to adapt to things as they go. And the best way to do that is to stay informed as best as possible, and learn best practices from other companies, even if they're not from the same industry, because in storytelling, you need to know which approach to take. And the basics of that, it doesn't even come from the content itself, but it comes with the strategy people use to access and to tell that story. But yeah, Luis is also a great trainer. So his feedback always makes us push harder and take different approaches to content. And I'm not saying this because I work with him, obviously, I'm being completely honest here, even though that too. But yeah, it's a matter of learning with times and adapting to what needs to be said and learning to adapt the story that we want others to hear based on the things that we learn from outside and inside.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrea. Happy to hear that. And Anthony, so there is an interesting tweet from Brad Van Leuven, who disagrees with something I said in the beginning to focus on quality and produce less content. And actually, he has a point when he says, yes.
Brad Van Leuven. Yes, okay.
The first stages or a stage of your business, and you are following the inbound approach, then you need to produce massively. And yes, of course you have to, but if that's the case, search for a type of content or type of format more than content you can produce still with quality and certain frequency. A long form blog or a white paper or an ebook is nothing even big companies produce every time. It really takes time. So either, I don't know, it could be an Instagram post, it could be, I'm thinking out loud, but what is an infographic that is not even an infographic like long, that also needs research and visual experience, visual storytelling and all that, but maybe something, a graphic or something that every single day with certain frequency a week can convey your message, but still with quality. But it's a very good point, and thanks for pointing that out. I mean, it's also true that what I said is it's more for more mature businesses, but for the other businesses it works as well. The quality thing shouldn't be lost at any point. Otherwise you get produced by the sake of producing. The idea here is search for the ideal format that allows you to be frequent enough, but it's still with quality.
Okay, Luis. Anything else you would like to add, Luis?
No, really. I mean, I think, yeah, there's so many things I want to add, but for me, I mean, this is a very exciting, very, very exciting field. I never stop learning, so don't stop learning either. Take what I have said, it's just a sort of reference, it's sort of a particular experience, but likely not 100% of what I said, but 50%, if 50% of what I said, or 30, resonated with you and you can take something, at home, that makes me already very happy. Mm-hmm. But nothing is set in stone, and everything needs to be adjusted to the reality of your business, of what you are doing now, or maybe you are an independent professional. But everything I said also is based on experience, trial and error. Some things, like I mentioned in the beginning, haven't been solved. Some things have been solved. But there is a long way to go. And there is a long way to go for me where I want to see the current company I am working for when it comes to content. So the journey is still long, very long.
A few more questions to you. Rapid fire question, Luis. Is there any book you could recommend to the audience that has marked you? It doesn't have to be necessarily a digital marketing book, communication. Any book that inspired you to be who you are, that you would recommend people to read?
Just said not necessarily about content, because one of the best I recommend you really is the one written by Joe Pulizzi, a little bit more than a couple of years ago. It was remastered, I think. Then what I don't have in mind is the title, but it's basically the content strategy. Okay. And it's the one I recommend you about content in itself. And the other thing I would tell you, the Weekly Wrap is also a very interesting podcast run by Robert Rose.
Mm-hmm.
Not really a book, but it's a podcast on content marketing, and more than content marketing, but the guy, it's more than an ABC, do this, do that. It's a reflection, a deep reflection on content and consumption of content and audience building, and in a very, very nice way. So it's also something I recommend. Yes, Robert Rose, it's called the Weekly. Yes, it's the Weekly Wrap. Another brand and their blog, I truly recommend you to follow, because it's very easy to digest. It's Contently. I don't know even how to pronounce it properly, but it's CONTENTLY, Contently. Their blog is outstandingly good, and it helps you, understand a lot of things and also reflect on a lot of things. But no, yeah, that's all I can say regarding content. Now, in terms of novels, I am more into historical. I love historical books. I mean, a mix of fantasy and history that merged together. And I don't know if that is something now that you wanna. Yeah. But, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So we got your influencer. Podcast influencer, one of your favorite books on content strategy. We have your favorite podcast, and you say that a mix of history and art fits together just to expand your awareness about what is out there. Luis, it's been a pleasure to host you today for this special and unique masterclass on content strategy. You've been a friend for me since 4 years now. It's been a pleasure. Thanks also for your team for having joined in and for having contributed. I will just quickly share my screen to tell you what is happening next week.